Over the NBA playoff game along with Brooks Koepka, where they couldn't stop showing. It was a wild game. It was a great game. I know it's great for you.
Great game.
3-1.
It was really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was like being on air but not talking for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, both these conference finals feel like the other team could lead the series. I want to start with this, though. There's Joy Taylor right there. Let's show a picture of Joy. All right. That is so funny.
It was great.
That is so great. Let me start with this. What a shocker that the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat, two really well-run organizations who both have great presidents, GMs, and great coaches, are developing all these young stars. Isn't that funny how it works? You think of player development in college, right? Like you take a high schooler who's talented, but he's a high school kid, and then you get him in college, and Nick Saban polishes him up, or Mike Krzyzewski polishes him up. But players are now leaving college early. So player development is now a real responsibility in the pros. And what a shock. The Miami Heat and the Celtics do it really well. You know who doesn't? The Lakers. No 20-year-olds are dropping 37 for LeBron. As I've said before, of the 4 teams left, we know the Celtics and the Heat are well-run and developed players. Denver does too, but they don't have a history of it. The one team that doesn't is the Lakers. And I'll give you an example. Brandon Ingram leaves the Lakers, and an hour later, he pops. D'Angelo Russell leaves the Lakers, becomes an all-star. Kyle Kuzma's getting worse. When's the last like good player the Lakers developed? I'm talking homegrown. It's Andrew Bynum. Remember him? Yeah, not really. He was good very briefly and then fizzled. But the NBA is now a developmental league. You think of the G League as developmental. But nobody that's any good in the NBA stays in college generally for 4 years. So the NBA now on rosters is a developmental league. I mean, that's what it is. Sometimes you have to play the developmental players. Like Tyler Hero right now is better in the NBA than he was in college. Did he have a 37-point game at Kentucky? I mean, this is what's happening. It's such an advantage. I'll give you an example with the Celtics. When Marcus Smart came into this league for the Celtics, he was rough. Dude could not shoot. And I mean, he made Ricky Rubio look like, Jerry West and Steph Curry. Dude couldn't shoot. 18-footer, I'm talking hit the bad parts of the iron, if it hit it. Marcus Smart is so valuable for the Celtics. Now, Jaylen Brown was just an athlete from Cal, could not shoot. Those guys are so good, so trustable. That's player development. And this has been my knock on the Lakers. It's that they get stars. And I'm not saying you can't get stars. You got to go out and get a Kemba Walker. You got to go out and get a Jimmy Butler. This is the NBA. You're not going to win with 7 Tyler Heroes. So everybody goes out and gets a star. What star do you get? Pat Riley's got a history. He goes and gets Shaq. He goes and gets LeBron. He goes and gets Bosh. He goes and gets Jimmy Butler. You got to choose the right star. The Knicks chose Carmelo Anthony. Houston chooses Westbrook. You choose the wrong star. So getting a star is valuable. But player development has never been a bigger deal in the NBA because they're not staying with Roy Williams for 4 years. They're not staying with Coach K. They get him for an hour. They're off to the NBA. And because you drafted him in the first round, you're not going to send him to the G League. You hope you don't. So it's not a shock that Denver, by the way, Denver's whole roster, mostly homegrown guys. The Celtics, they get Kemba, Gordon, homegrown. Miami. I mean, think about Duncan Robinson. First of all, you didn't know who he was a year ago. He's 26 already. How? He went to college for a long time. He was D3. He was undrafted. The guys like that don't end up in the NBA. Undrafted D3, transfer to Michigan, play forever in college in 2020. That's not an NBA player. He's a valuable NBA player. And I just look at it. It's as I watched it last night, I'm looking around and I'm like, this is what LeBron doesn't get. He doesn't get a 20-year-old dropping 30. I think Kyle Kuzma is a good kid. I think he's getting worse. I remember when he first got to the Lakers, he'd have these 36-point games and these 29-point games kind of regularly. I think he's lost his total confidence. That's player development. There's a big, now NFL has this as well. The Green Bay Packers in the last 20 years, 2 times have drafted a tackle in the first round. Why do the Packers always have a good offensive line? Because the Packers, somebody in there, the secret sauce of the Green Bay Packers is not just Favre and Aaron Rodgers. The secret sauce of the Green Bay Packers and the New England Patriots. The Patriots and the Packers. Nate Solder was a first-round pick for the Patriots, but mostly the history of the last 20 years is getting guys in the third and the fourth and the fifth round or undrafted guys, and they develop them on the offensive line. The Packers and the Patriots always have good O-lines. There's not a lot of first-round draft picks in the last 20 years in the O-line. So Jimmy Butler talks about these young guys. It's not going away. This is what Miami and Riley do. This is their history.
Did you guys think he was capable of this?
Yeah, without a doubt. We know anybody on our roster that they're capable of that. It was his time. I hope it's his time the next game as well. It could be Duncan. I hope it's Duncan. It could be Bam. It could be anybody. But he definitely willed us to a victory tonight.
All right, let's talk. Lakers, by the way, play Denver tonight. Try to take, like Miami, a pretty insurmountable lead. We'll see. It's a close series like this one. So I love the NFL. You know that. I'm an NFL guy first. I mean, I love my college football. I love my NBA. I like March Madness. I like the World Cup, baseball playoffs. I love the NFL. And I'm sure you're probably noticing this. This is the greatest first 2 weeks for offense in NFL history. Now, that's crazy, right? Wait a minute. We had no preseason. The NFL season is off to its highest scoring start ever with no preseason. Now, some of it, you say to yourself, well, the defenses are running vanilla schemes. Well, I don't know. I mean, I watched Baltimore first 2 weeks. That doesn't look very vanilla-ish to me. There are teams in the NFL. I mean, I've watched Tampa for 2 weeks in a row, especially last week. That's not a vanilla defense. It's very complex. Right now in the NFL, 13 quarterbacks have a passer rating over 100, 19 over 90. 9 guys are completing over 70% of their throws. Last year it was 3. Okay. Russell Wilson is completing, I'm not making it up, 83% of his passes. It can't be just vanilla schemes. We've seen Joe Burrow walk in, who really had 2 years starting in college, but mostly 1 year where it all hummed. He's looked unbelievable. Justin Herbert for the Chargers got a 5-minute heads up. He was starting in the NFL with no reps with the first team all week. Can you imagine that? Forget the butterflies. They'd be like T-Rex inside. He was excellent. What is going on here? Gardner Minshew is tearing up the league. What it tells you is, and this is not going to slow down, when people a few years ago were talking about concussions in the NFL, and I don't know the future of this league, I said, number one, the NFL's always shown an ability to adjust their rules, their equipment, their safety procedures. The NFL's been, unlike baseball, the NFL has always been the great develop league, adjust league, adapt league. You know, you think of football, Neanderthals. No. Football will change their rules, their equipment, their practices, their procedures on a dime, number one. And secondly, let's be honest about this. The quarterback play is so damn good now that without preseason, 19 quarterbacks have over a 90 passer rating. This is the future of the NFL. Did Russell Wilson just suddenly get... No, Russell's been great for years, but the quality of the coaching, the quality of the schemes, the adjustment to the rules, anybody that questions... I remember years ago, I was at the other place, and the NFL was getting rid of some hits upstairs. There was a, and I remember there was a radio show before me, and it had a former NFL guy. You hear a lot of this. Put a dress on these guys. And I was like, time out.